I've been asked several times to take a look at Chris Hemsworth, and I thought I'd throw in Liam as well. So I want to point out that he does have quite a small looking region right up here. On a lot of MTFs, I've pointed out that they try and create a kind of spinal arch through using their large back and hunching it backwards. But on this person, it seems like the actual back right up here is not very large. It does appear like there's some expansion of flesh at the front, I suppose. The feet actually don't look very large for someone who's... I believe he has a listed height of 6'3", and Liam as well. Whether that's true or not, I could envision larger feet on such a man. The arms on this person are outstandingly short. Typically Caucasian males will have longer arms than this. But this person does have muscle built up. But FTMs take testosterone, which also causes the beard growth, and FTMs also often take steroids to build muscle. Now, one thing I want to point out is that in some shots, you can't really tell about the spinal arch with FTMs. Part of this is because they really build up the back muscles, and so from the side and from three-quarter angles, these back muscles right on either side of the spine, they make it look as if the spine isn't as curved, because on females you don't have big muscles, so you can easily see the shape of the spine. It doesn't look like this person's spine is very tilted in this photo, and they in polished productions, this is just a candid shot by the looks of it, but in polished productions they tend to be pretty careful about the shape that they're showing. So I think this one is Chris. Yeah, it looks more like Chris, and see from this angle now, you really can see that there is that spinal arch. You can also see through here with the shadows and the general shapes that it appears to be a curve at the front as well. Now the thing about the Hemsworths also is that they tend to have pretty long torsos, and it is uncommon for females to have such long torsos. But there are some women in the world who have this kind of body type, and I mean, it makes sense that if they're going to be trying to be passing some FTMs off as biological males in the media, it makes sense that the ones that they choose to succeed will be ones that genetically have some more traits that are more in alignment with typical male body types. But this back, this is just not a male spine. Now with Chris Hemsworth, the big pectorals are going to be really distracting to people. The big deltoids and arms are going to be distracting. The big lats are going to be distracting. But the thing is, we can tell this person's shoulders are sloping at a skeletal level, because on males with more of a kind of square shoulder shape, when they build up the trapezius muscles, you can still see that there's kind of a broad square shape to the shoulder, which most males tend to have. But on this person, the shoulders actually are quite narrow, and if we follow to the edge of the collarbones here, check out where the actual joints in the shoulders are, we can see that this person's been using that FTM deltoid trick. They build these up to make it look like the shoulders are wider than they are, but in reality, shoulder joints are quite narrow. And if we check where the curvy hips have their joints, they are definitely equal. There is a clear point that seems to be narrower above the navel. This person does appear to have an Adonis belt, but they have ways of putting these on FTMs, either through, implanting things or through doing liposculpture or something. This person, for someone who's got apparently quite big muscle, generally you would see more of the bones right here. They're quite robed in subcutaneous body fat. Now the thing that you really have to notice with the Hemsworths is the leg shape, which is the really, really telling part on these ones. See here that you can tell there's lots of curve on the inside of the thigh, and there's a lot of sway to the hips when these people walk. It's not at all normal for a male. And I won't look extensively into Elsa Pataki, but I will point out that this person has extremely straight legs. There's a bit of a curve from the quadricep on the outside. The inside is very, very, very straight. The overall appearance of the leg is just very straight. That's a male Q angle. The legs walk more as if they're straddling a line, side by side, instead of closer together one after the other. Shoulders are very square, wide. You could fit 3 of these skulls on these shoulders. Looks like sort of the mass is greater in the upper body. Shoulders do seem to be wider than the hips. So this is a small person here, but it's very likely an MTF. Whereas Chris Hemsworth has built up these arm muscles. I mean, potentially this person has, pectoral implants. We don't know what procedures have been done to all of these people. But in any case, it does appear to be very built up, and if you can't see the legs, you can't see the back, it's feasible for people to believe that it's male, but it's not. This one's Liam, and we can see that very clearly there is a female Q angle here. Now the Hemsworths are quite tricky, because I've noticed that they seem to be actively walking differently, so that they don't appear as FTM. Some FTMs are very aware of their bodies and know how to do things to change what they look like, and the Hemsworths are some of those people. If you watch them in motion, you'll find that typically they tend to kind of sway side to side. They angle their legs outward and really step far to that side, so it avoids giving the impression of the female Q angle with the legs stepping close together. They're very aware of their bodies. But we do seem to have quite a lot of mass down at this region. The shoulders are pretty big, yeah. Another common FTM trick is wearing the trousers too low, so you can't really make out the hip shape, you can't make out the Q angle shape as much. But you can see. But there is something very strange about the shape still when you look at it through this kind of clothing. And here we have what looks like a female spinal arch. The back comes in, the back goes out. Liam does seem to have bigger feet than Chris. Once in a while, if they forget to do the walk, then you kind of see more telltale FTM signs with the arms swinging out far to the side, with what looks like a female Q angle, the legs stepping more one after the other. Just a lot of sway to the body that you generally don't see on men. Now here with Chris, the arms are just so incredibly short for such a tall man. It's very, very strange. And I often talk about how sometimes men will have a bit of a bulge to the abdomen if they have built up oblique muscles, but what I say is that the hips shouldn't continue to expand past that point. But here we do have the female waist indentation above the navel, we have some obliques, but we have lots of mass and hip size here too. There's just a lot of round shape here. The actual shoulder joints, ignoring the big built-up deltoids. Shoulder joints match in the hips. These are female hips. Lots of space in there. Got the kind of small, more almond eye shape that's more common on females. One thing that's odd with Chris Hemsworth is his widow's peak seems to change size, so I don't know if they pluck parts of this sometimes or what, but it's kind of strange. The eyes are closely spaced. The features are small, even, regular, close together. The lips aren't really big. A lot of Caucasian people don't have really large lips, but the thing is, these lips are actually quite equal in size, which is more common on females. So he's exhibiting something typically female there. It's quite a gradual kind of soft shape to the jaw. It's more of an oval sort of face shape. There's no jutting bones, there's not a really prominent brow ridge, there's no prominent cheekbones. The jaw isn't really square, doesn't go far back. It's more common of a female face. The length of the face is extended. This is a common, well-known effect of testosterone. Testosterone use usually grows the nose as well, can grow brow ridges, grows facial hair, can grow an Adam's apple. He doesn't really have much of an Adam's apple. The ears are quite large for a female, but again, these traits vary between individuals. With the wife, she appears to have a larger mouth, wider dental arch, squarer jaw, more of a brow ridge, kind of more prominent skull traits on the wife than on the husband. And with Liam, it's a very kind of soft-looking person. I feel like this is quite a female subcutaneous body fat level that we're seeing on him. There's a very gradual curve down to the ankle, common on females, kind of soft looking face. It does look like there may be some discoloration on the hands, which sometimes happens with testosterone use. And here, this is what I've been talking about, again, with the Hemsworths and how they consciously change the way they're walking. See how the knee's angled far out, the leg is angled out, the entire hip is turning a little bit. It's almost kind of like skating the way these people walk. They intentionally move the leg outward to the side and step and step. And yet, we have the angling arms at the shoulders, because there is quite a lot of mass to the hips. Now, this person doesn't immediately look very FTM. They do have pretty square shoulders. As I've said before, some women from Northern Europe will have more of a square shoulder shape and not as round of hips. And those people also tend to be tall. So these people may have some ancestry sort of like that. It's a possibility. And the very strange thing about this is that it also is the rib cage angling in the small female rib cage, not just lats, that causes this very strange torso shape. Definite female waist indentation. Again, the shoulder joints, they do match up to the widest points in the hip. Kind of more of an angled collarbone, more common on females. Very strange looking chest. It's very... Real men tend to have more kind of square pectorals, but here there's kind of no division between the tissue. It's just very gradual, kind of soft looking round curve, which is very, very unusual. See how far the leg is being turned outward, how far the knee is angled, how much the ankle is turned. This is someone consciously changing the way their hips move so they appear less female. Big space in the pelvis, that's a very wide looking pelvis. Again, he's juiced up. The upper body looks big because of the steroids. Torso looks long. Even with the muscle, it does seem like, more female fat levels too, just gradual curves still, even with that. Again, feet look pretty small. Notice here how there is a roundness, a curve high up on the hip, and it comes downward. And we can tell that the hips kind of have the widest point where the Q angle begins at a very low point below the crotch. See, the hips of this person, they look the same as the female beside them. Kind of, you can tell there's a bit of a pelvic tilt through seeing that the body is a little bit tilted. Comes outward at the back. Neck looks pretty short. This is a tall FTM. Swaying the shoulders, stepping side to side. This person does try to change what their body looks like, but still they can't escape that hourglass figure. Again, the crotch level being more equal to the palm rather than the wrist as it should be on a real male. We can definitely see there's too much curve in the spine. That's not normal for men. There's a whole tilt to the body. It's not normal for men. The feet seem to be a little bigger when they're in shoes, so they may be wearing shoes a little too big for them even. I'm not sure. Sometimes it seems FTMs do this for the illusion. See when Hemsworth forgets to angle the knees way out to the side and do the kind of swaying, stepping side by side. The knees are very close together. We have a clear female Q angle, the widest point below the crotch. And again, yes, the upper body does look really big because of the muscle, but we've already seen the skeletal structure. The hips are equal to the shoulders. And then when we see that the knees naturally step close together because of that acute female Q angle, the feet step close together. If they forget for a minute, you can see what they are. Compared to the wife with the male Q angle, totally straight legs. The wife knows the MTF trick to do the catwalk to make it look like there's more of a female Q angle. And compared to the last shot, it does appear like there's more of one because of that trick, but I've already pointed this out a lot in my videos, trying to help people to recognize what it looks like when MTFs are doing this trick. Again, look at Hemsworth. When he forgets to step side to side, when he forgets to kind of sway and skate around, then we see that undeniable female Q angle. Look at how pronounced that is. Look how much curve on the inside of the thigh. They're pretty short legs, but they are definitely female legs. Close together knees, close together feet. And then with Liam, this is another trick I've pointed out before. They'll angle the arm back inward from the elbow so that it doesn't look like they have the arms angling outward to make way for the hips, which we've seen on Liam before, that his arms tend to sway outward to the sides like female arms do. Now, actually in these trousers, the legs don't look that strange, especially because he's doing the walking trick that both the Hemsworths do. Also, the hands are in the pockets. If you just showed me this photo, I wouldn't necessarily say there's something strange about this person. And Liam does have a lot of size, a lot of kind of square, big shoulders, mass to the person. But the thing is, they have that high female point where you can tell the natural waist should be. They have the big, wide pelvis. If you have to compare, I don't think Liam looks as obvious as Chris in some regards, but they do appear to both be inverted. He has the similar kind of small, close-spaced eyes, smaller mouth, more of an oval shape to the face. They both have the widow's peaks, and as I've mentioned before, with some FTMs, the muscle they build up will hide the curve to the back. But this person does have quite a tilt to the spine, and it does appear like there's a tilt to the pelvis as well. This one is more passable than Chris, in my opinion, but still, Liam does have that female Q angle. It's got the similar body to Chris with the lower hips, the long torso, but you can tell when they forget they have these legs that walk close together, feet walk close together, legs angle inward from a low point on the leg. They are very unusually shaped for women, but they do not have male bodies. You can tell that the widest part, the part where the Q angle begins, is low, and yet there's still a lot of curve, a lot of tilt higher up, gradual curves on the person. So I've cautioned people before that when you find footage from actual polished productions like films, they'll typically be filmed from angles that will make inverted people look the least inverted possible, that minimize curves on FTMs, and so I will just point out here, the ribcage seems to be pretty short. Male ribcages often are kind of longer than what we're seeing here, and it does appear like there's quite a bit of bend in the person, and bending and tilting. And then again, the Hemsworth swerving skating trick. Angle the entire leg outward and kind of tromp from side to side instead of walking as the legs naturally walk. This must be supremely uncomfortable for the pelvis, but it works pretty well, so they know what they're doing. Again, there is a lot of mass kind of in the thighs and the hips, everything down low here. So on a tall male, when they have wide shoulders, when they have a broad chest, then they should get smaller as they go lower down, but you don't see that on Liam Hemsworth. He's big down low. The mass of the person appears to mostly be in the center, and that's because he's female, and females have a lower center of gravity. Again, looks like we may have discolored hands on Liam, doing that knee and ankle trick. Still, you can see there's a lot of sway, a lot of motion in the hips. They also move the shoulders a lot to distract you. It's like the Hemsworths are doing what the MTFs, a lot of MTFs know how to do, but most FTMs don't know how to disguise their Q angle and figure when they walk. But it seems that they are catching up with these ones. And it's not surprising that they need to catch up because, in my observation, there have not been as many FTMs in the media until recently. There were more in past decades, more MTFs than there were FTMs. But recently there are a lot of both. And Chris doing the old trick. We'll see the foot is entirely angled outward, the ankles, the knees entirely angled outward. Then we've got the arms swinging outward because skeletally they need to, because the hips require that space. And again, just showing you the Q angle, the hips on Liam, the arms swinging out when he doesn't angle them back inward. The knees close together, the obvious bone in here, the bone showing that we've got a female pelvis where there is definitely room to carry a baby. These arms are just so strange because, the pectoral muscles, the implants, they've been put really wide, so it looks like the chest is suitably wide for wide shoulders, but the shoulders actually aren't really that wide. They're quite narrow, and then we've got the arms kind of built up, and it's sort of like someone took the shoulders and kind of shoved them inward from what they would be if they were a real male's shoulders. It's just very unnatural looking. On Liam, kind of angled in jawline, kind of oval pointed face, fairly broad mouth, nose grew, a little bit of a brow ridge on both of them, really not much of one. They both have quite flat vertical foreheads. The case of the disappearing widow's peak on Chris. They all have one, more common on females, not restricted to them. But these are some people with very feminine faces. Especially Chris, he's got a very, very feminine face. None of them really have much going on in the neck. And these hands, they do have quite a lot of vein. They're not really delicate, small hands, but with some women in Germany, Sweden places, I've actually seen some women who have some pretty big hands. And I have heard that some FTMs who take testosterone will say that their hands look kind of more masculine when they take it. So they've had some changes brought on them because of whatever hormones they've been taking. I assume these people were all on hormone blockers when they were young. They appear to be prepubescent female to male transgenders, and this is decided not just based on skulls, not just based on traits of the flesh, but based on a kind of soft energy and based on skeletal traits related to childbearing. You gotta look really carefully on some of these prepubescent FTMs, but if you look carefully, you will find these people have female primary skeletal traits, and that's that.